Being human. Do you ever wonder what makes us who we are? Our habits, preferences, or where we came from? We are expressing ourselves in thousands of ways every day through our choices. Let's have a conversation with people who are having interesting lives. My name is Alun Walker. I'm a doctor of chiropractic and a human being.
Welcome to everybody for joining us on Being Human and Chiropractic Revolution. I'm excited to have with us a really brilliant guest, someone that we had with us this time last year. And no further ado, let's get straight into it. Dr. Tim Young. Welcome, Dr. Tim Young.
Great to have. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. I'm really honored. I love doing these type of interviews and podcasts because it's a way that we can get my 30 years and my experience and the message that you're bringing out to more chiropractors, and that's just what I was called to do.
Fantastic. So the first question I'd like to ask you is one which has been on my mind for some time. Obviously, I'm a chiropractor. I was a graduate. I left university, and at the time, I thought I knew everything there was to know that could be about chiropractic. You know, I'd been reading some green books. I'd got some pretty good hand skills. And I thought that was going to be it, leaving uni, start my own business. It was going to be fantastic. I wouldn't have to learn anything else. And that isn't really the truth of what I found.
No.
It was a long way from that. And that's hence the reason why spending time with people like yourself, even now, I'm running 2 clinics, but I feel like I'm just beginning on my journey. So anytime I can get to actually hang with people like yourself, Tim, especially you, then it's well worthwhile. So the question I want to ask you, Tim, is if we're looking for more information when we leave university, where do we get it from? And for me, it's been from mentorship. It's been getting around people that have been around the business a long time, and people that have just maybe not just been around for 20 or 30 years, but people who have been really built big businesses, people who see lots of people who have fantastic reviews, and people who teach other chiropractors. And Tim, that's you, isn't it? So the question is, where did you learn your skills? You know, which university, how you left university, and then who were the key people in your life that made a big difference to you to become what you are today?
Well, you know, when as you're talking and I'm reflecting back, the very first mentor I had within chiropractic was my Uncle Billy Biles. He was a chiropractor in Missouri. He graduated from Cleveland Chiropractic School, where I went to school. He graduated from there in 1966. He was there so long ago. So Carl Cleveland III, who is, I think he's in his late 70s, pushing 80 years old. He was a little boy back then, and my aunt and uncle used to babysit him when he was a little boy, and now he's the president of the school. And when I started going to see him, and he was getting adjusted when I was probably I think I was in the 5th grade the first time I ever saw him when we moved to that town. Anyway, I remember going to him for just, football accidents. I used to wrestle, just aches and pains, and Uncle Bill would adjust me, and I didn't know anything other than Uncle Bill would work on me, and he was great, and I loved him, and I would come in and out of his office, and it was not a big deal. Let's fast forward. I broke my back when I was 18 years old in a car accident, and was told I had just started lifting weights, and I wanted to be a bodybuilder. I was a teenager, and I wanted to compete and all these things, and I was always real small, and I broke my back, and the orthopedic doctors and the neurosurgeons, they come in and the emergency room and said, well, your bodybuilding days are over. You will never lift heavy. Your body won't be able to do it, and you'll probably have a significant limp due to the injuries. And that's crushing to an 18-year-old kid, when you have your whole vision in front of you. And I go see my Uncle Bill, and he had a few choice words for them and he said, face down, he started adjusting me. And so 6 weeks later, I'm back in the gym working out. 6 months later, I won my first teenage bodybuilding competition, and I competed for, 24 years after that. Fast forward, I went to chiropractic school, and then I had Dr. Hugo Gibson. And Dr. Gibson, we just lost him here recently, and he, in my opinion, was the greatest living chiropractor at the time on the planet. I would tell people if he cuts himself, he bleeds Green Book. I mean, that's just, he was that guy, and I learned so much from him, and I'll come back to him But let's full circle. I get out of chiropractic school and I go back and I do a preceptorship, an internship with my Uncle Bill, all these years, these years later. And it just, something hit me as you're talking that I hadn't thought about in a long time. I was there in the office and a lady came in with her husband and he was adjusting her and she was complaining that she had shingles. And he said, well, we need to get you adjusted. And she spun off on him. Shingles, she said, it's shingles. Chiropractors can't help shingles. And she was just, I've been to my real doctor, right? And this was 1994. So a long time ago. And I still remember this. And he was such a sweet man. He was very simple in his approach to chiropractic. And he had this kind of a pot belly and he had his hands on his belly. And he goes, well, he just smiled. He said, okay. He said, we might just try. We might just try. And her husband looked at her and said, what do you got to lose? You're suffering. So he adjusted her. I was there. She came back 2 days later, head held low. She said, I have to admit something to you. My shingles are gone. And Uncle Bill just smiled. And he said, well, that's nice. That's real nice. And that's all he said, right? And so these are things that plant in your brain. And you talk about a mentor, you see the power of chiropractic in its simplistic form. And that's what chiropractic is. But then I had Dr. Gibson, who taught me the adjustment and the power of the adjustment and what we truly work with. We don't work with musculoskeletal, we don't work with bones, we don't work with nerves, we work with life. And he taught us that. And then you get out of school, and then I listened to everything John DeMartini ever put out. Everything Sigafus put out. When I was a young chiropractor, back in the days, we had cassette tapes, and I would put them in my cassette player in my car, and I would drive to the office. I listened to Sigafus every morning, every day at lunch, and on the way home. Almost every day. I was either listening to Sigafus, Reggie Gold, DeMartini, anything, Rob Schiffman, who's going to be speaking now at my conference, and I used to listen to his tapes all those years ago. Anyone that I could pour into. And then later on, I had one of the greatest mentors ever is Dr. Richard Yenny. He was a chiropractor in Kansas City, and Richard practiced for 62 years. He was world renowned. He was a chiropractor, but he was also an acupuncture master. He brought a lot of techniques to America. He was a Qigong master, mind-body healing. He studied in the temples with the Qigong masters in Beijing. The Beijing general of the army was his best friend, and he could go over there and study in the temples where no one was allowed. So, and I learned so much from him. And so those were my greatest mentors. But then honestly, spend time with the Word. This is one of my favorite books, The Chiropractic Story by Marcus Bach. If you guys can find it, hang on to it. This one is an original hard copy. This book is worth about $5,000. It never leaves my home. I don't take it anywhere. But the green books, anything Fred Barge. Fred Barge is a huge mentor. I am a huge believer, Alan, that if you don't know where we've come from, there's no way you could know where you're going. And the push from the schools and the profession today is to try to cover this stuff up, try to get us to forget. They call it antiquated. They call it it's holding us back as a profession. And it's not. If it wasn't for the first chiropractors, you and I aren't having this conversation today, right? And so I asked the question, what did they have that got us here, and where did it go? And that's for me, my mentors are Sylva Ashworth. One of the first female chiropractors, most successful chiropractor on the planet. In 1919, she's seen 100 people a day. Now think about that in 1919, right? And so my mentors, my teachers, my biggest influences are the ones that came before us that stood up against the medical profession, stood up against society and said, we are chiropractors. I will go, Herbert Ross Reaver. I've got one of his books, The Man Worth Knowing. Herbie Reaver went to prison 6 months, hard labor in prison, way back in the day when it was hard labor, and because he wouldn't pay a $25 fine for practicing medicine without a license. He stood his ground. He said, no, I will not do it. If that's not a true chiropractic mentor, I don't know who is. I mean, there's nobody listening to this right now would go to prison for 6 months, leave his family, instead of paying a $25 fine for chiropractic. I promise you they wouldn't. That man did. And I read that story and I hear that, and people know about him, the most jailed chiropractor. But no one stops and takes a step back and really spends time with why. Why was it so important? The reason it was so important, and here's why, is again, Alun, the reason you and I have the opportunity to have this conversation today, that we get to go into our offices and adjust people, and we get this amazing lifestyle, is because of those people. We don't need to forget them. We need to remember them. We need to talk about them. We need to hold them up high. And that's, I hope I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole, but as far as my mentors go, that's how I look at it. And I'm always looking for the chiropractors back in the day that stood in the face of the adversity in the whole world for the principle of what we do. It wasn't to manipulate them back and get someone well. It was because they had a patient flying to them with cancer and no one else could help them, and they would adjust him, and those people lived. And we're not allowed to talk about that. Well, I'm going to talk about it. Those are my mentors, Alun.
That's brilliant. So I want to talk to you a bit more about mentorship in a moment. I want to go back to that. But so I don't forget, while I was speaking to you, you're one of my mentors, without a doubt, Tim. You've thousands of chiropractors mentors, without doubt. But the story of the how you helped one of your clients who was having a child, and she was in hospital, and there was problems. That is the most that brought tear. That made me quite tearful, to be honest, when I heard that. And it's such an emotional story.
It really is.
Sure that we get that into this. If you don't mind telling us.
I love that story, and I have. What's funny is I have a follow up to that story here not too long ago, and so it is 15. I think it's 15 years ago now. 15 years ago, I have a patient that she just like a lot of my patients. She came in and she's pregnant and she's going to have the baby at home. It's going to be a home delivery. And I adjusted her through her entire pregnancy. Her husband Mark, he was a pastor, and they were coming in. And when she went into labor at home, she started having complications, and they had to rush her to the hospital. Well, then I get a phone call that night, and I didn't know any of this, but I get a phone call that afternoon at the office from her husband. Said, Dr. Young, Christy has some problems with Coleman. He got stuck in the birth canal. They got him out, but he's in ICU, and we're terrified. They're telling us that he's probably not going to make it through the night, and they don't know what to do. Can you come? So here's the crazy thing is, I think about this 15 years ago. I'm just their chiropractor, right? But for some reason, God laid it on his heart to call me. I mean, you're in ICU. You think that you're in the best place you could be. No one could help, and the first thing he thought of, I need to call my chiropractor, right? And so I said, well, Mark, I would love to come, but it's a hospital, it's ICU. I can't just walk in. He said, let me see what I can do. So Alun, I love telling this part of the story because this is the true blessing of universal intelligence and God and what we do and how important it is. I had one patient, of all the patients that I had thousands, tens and 20s of thousands of patients. One patient that is a pediatrician, one, and he would come in and I took care of him and his family. At that time, at that moment that this was going on, out of all the hospitals in Oklahoma City, there's 7. Of all the women having babies, of all the rooms, at all the times, at that moment, Dr. Thompson is on call in their room. Now you've tried to figure out the odds of that happening, right? And Mark said, Dr. Thompson, is there any way that Dr. Young can come see Coleman? Can we get him in? And he said, well, listen, you tell Dr. Young if there's anything he can do, our hands are thrown up. We would love some help. I would love some help is what he said. And so I show up, I get out of the office, I show up. And when I walked into this office here at this hospital, not too far from my house. I can almost see it from here. There was a nurse waiting on me, and she said, oh, you must be Uncle Tim, and looked at me. Yes, ma'am, I'm Uncle Tim. And so she rushed me, and I had to put the full gown on, the hat, the booties, the whole things, right? And I go in this little ICU room, and it was weird. It was like, it's like time slowed down, right? And I go in, and there's Mark and Christy's standing there, and she looked like she'd been hit by a car. Hair was all disarrayed. She just head down. She just looked bad. And Mark was standing next to her, and they'd both been crying so hard. And I go up to Christy, and Alun, all the whites in her eye was gone. Both eyes were blood red, exploded, completely blood red from all the internal pressure. Just boom. She couldn't speak. And I looked at Mark and I said, Mark, what happened? He said, well, Coleman got stuck in the birth canal, and they pushed him in, they turned him, and they ripped him out. They weighed him, he weighed over 11 pounds. He was a huge baby, right? But they ripped him out. So I turn around, and there's 4 nurses. There's Mark, Christy, and 4 nurses in this room. I turn around and I walk over, and he's the only one in this ICU room. He's the only baby in there, and he's in this plastic tub. They have these things, and all these monitors are hooked up to him. And I look up at the monitors, and again, Ellen, this was 15 years ago, and I didn't know the importance of this moment. I was just there. I was present in a moment. I wasn't thinking about recording it or remembering it. I was just called to be there. But I do remember that the heart rate was over 200 beats a minute, and his respiration was like 6. So his heart was ready to bust, and he couldn't catch his breath. And they didn't know why. They couldn't regulate it, right? And they thought something genetic, blah blah blah. He's not going to make it. So I looked down at him, Alan, and all the whites in his eyes were blood red. They were gone. So the pressure on him was so dramatic that it blew all the blood vessels in his eyes. So, and I actually have pictures of this now. They after all these years, they sent me pictures of this whole thing. I didn't even know they had them. I reached down between the wires and I picked him up. I turned him and I picked him up and I leaned him forward and I took my thumbs and I just palpated and I just felt and I was just present. T6 rib on the right was sticking out so far that it was like pushing his skin almost. And I took my thumbs and I set the rib. It just went, and you could hear it, set it. Laid him back, came up, palpated the atlas. The atlas was so far to the right where they turned his head and pulled him. They pulled that atlas completely out of its place. And I took my fingers and I set it. Just quick, speed, boom, set it. And I turned him and I laid him down. Alan, he took his head, he turned it. It's like a great big deep breath. Heart rate started coming down on the monitor. The respiration started coming back up. We sit there, we looked at it, and I just turned around, and one of the head nurses had her arms crossed like this. She goes, well, those machines are not that reliable anyway. I just shook my head. I gave Christy a hug. I gave Mark a hug, and I said, he'll be fine. And I left, and I went home and had dinner with my family. There's a lot to this. And so the next day, Dr. Thompson comes into the office and he said, I don't know what you did, but he said, Coleman's going home today. And I just, like my Uncle Bill, well, ain't that nice? I have such a deep faith in chiropractic, but what I want you guys to understand when I tell this story, this is 15 years ago, right? And I had no fear. I had no doubts. I had no attachment to the outcome. I wasn't there to save his life at all. I wasn't worried about whether he would make it or not, if I was doing the right thing or not. I was in the hands of God. And when I made the adjustment, that was my intention. And that was what I was called to do. If God decided that he needed to call his little boy home, he would have done that. That wasn't up to me. My job was to look for the interferences in the nervous system. My job was to find the areas of the spine that was not an appropriate place and correct that to best of my ability. That was my job. And I was very certain with that. So I'll try to finish the story. So fast forward 1 year later, I get an invitation to a little boy's first year birthday party. And if I was to go to every one of my kids' first birthday parties, I'd be at birthday parties every weekend. But I told my wife, I said, we need to go to this one. This is a special one, right? So we go, and there's probably 200 people at this birthday party, a 1-year-old's birthday party at this huge church. And as I'm looking around, way over 50% of everybody there were patients that they had come in to see us in the past year because of this story, right? So Mark gets the mic, and it's his church. He gets this big microphone, and he's getting ready. We're going to cut the cake, but he's going to pray first. And he starts to cry. And Christy looks at him, and he used to be a professional wrestler. I mean, he's a big guy. And she takes that mic from him. She goes, "You big sissy." She said, "What Mark wants to say is this." I've told this story 1,000 times, and I still get emotional. What he wants to say is, God bless chiropractic. And God bless Dr. Young, because without chiropractic and Dr. Young, we wouldn't be having this birthday party. And Alan, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Everybody it was something. It was a moment in time I will never forget. Now let's fast forward 15 years, and just a few months ago, I get a picture of Coleman. He's got 2 brothers now that I've been taking care of. They've moved to another state, so I don't get to see him. But he's a big kid, 15 years old. I support them. I send them money for, they're all in martial arts and karate trips, and I support their trips and stuff. But I get a picture of Coleman at 15 years old, this big kid, and he's just competed in a martial art tournament, and it said goal number 1, win my tournament. He did it. And goal number 2, be a chiropractor. So he's going to go on to be a chiropractor. And so it is one of my favorite stories to tell, but it's also one of my favorite memories to set and settle in. And you talk about where, and people ask me all the time, where does my certainty in chiropractic come from? It was revealed to me. And once chiropractic is revealed to you, like Dr. Gibson, my teacher, my friend that I miss so much, I'm speaking at his memorial in July. He said, chiropractic reached into my heart, put its arms around my soul, and never let go. And it did that to me also, Alan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the thing is, you've had so much experience, wonderful things to share, and you're doing that with what you're doing with Focus, with what you're doing traveling all over the world. So as a mentor yourself, how can people come to you, if they're looking for a mentor, if they want to really make their business explode? What sort of students are you looking for? The chiropractors, do they have to be new graduates, or they can be chiropractors that have been around the business for 20 years and they're just missing something? There's just something that they know that they need that information.
So here's what I've learned, Alan, in all the years of doing this. I've been coaching for a long time, practiced 30 years, coaching for probably 20 of them. Focus has been, I had on and off, almost 13 years, thousands of doctors, worldwide. Here's what I've learned. There are chiropractors who need things, and then there are chiropractors who want things. And it's about 90-10, probably 95-5, but let's say 90-10 to be respectful. 90% of the chiropractors on the planet, they need things, and here's what I mean by that. They need to see just enough patients to pay their bills and to live on. And then they will adapt their lifestyle to accommodate how many patients they're seeing. That's as much as they need to do. I only need to see this many people to live somewhat comfortably. And those are the people who need things. Don't want those people. I don't have time for those people, and those people do not have what it takes to accomplish what the potential chiropractor can provide. Now there's people who want things. That's me. I was seeing 100 a week. I want to see 200 a week. I want to serve 200 a week. And I got to 200. I want to serve. I want to help. I want to change the lives. I want more Colemans. I could spend the next 6 hours telling chiropractic stories in my office, but I want to serve more people. I want to serve 300. I want to serve 400. I want to serve 500. I want to serve 6, 7, 8. I want to reach my potential. I want to create more, right? Need, want. The chiropractors who want more out of themselves. The chiropractors who want more out of their practice. They want more out of life. They want more for their families. Those are the ones that need to reach out to me. What I've done is I've created a program called Focus Foundations, and it is the only program on the planet that actually goes in my office. I've recorded everything live in my office. You can see a consultation, an exam, a report of findings. You can see the daily visits. I've got videos of me seeing 40, 45 patients in an hour, including a report of findings on a new patient. The front desk, I've got videos of all the front desk. And then I break it all down. And then we got videos and recordings of other chiropractors in the group that are doing amazing things, and they're telling their stories. And it's just, we have such an amazing library of video-based information that any chiropractor, that's why I got chiropractors in countries all over the world, in Malaysia and Germany and Italy and Great Britain, and I'm going to, we got a ton in New Zealand. I mean, we get over there, we got a ton of them in Australia, worldwide. And how am I able to influence these chiropractors worldwide? Because it's all they got to do is go on a computer and watch for themselves what it looks like and how it sounds and how it feels. And so that's who I'm looking for, is the chiropractors that in their heart, they know that they're made for more, they're meant for more, they're looking for that more that we'll talk about here in a minute. That's my new platform, but they want more out of life, and I can help them find that. And I give them the tools, and I know they can. We got doctors, gosh, we got a young lady in Australia. She practiced in a tiny little bitty country town in Australia as an associate and went over 400 visits a week. And I said, Kaylee, how did you do that? I mean, that's even for our doctors, that's insane. She said, well, you told me that I could. Another doctor in Sweden, in a little village in Sweden, at the base of a mountain, tripled his practice in 1 month. Tripled, right? So this is happening all over the world, and the reason it's happening is because the chiropractors who want more out of their practice, want more out of life, they're reaching out and finding me. They're reaching out and finding me. We had a young lady, Alex. She come over from China. She didn't even speak the language. She come from China to the States, got a chiropractic degree, tried to go back to China. They changed the laws. Chiropractic is illegal where she's from. So she goes to Great Britain. She comes over to London, outside of London, and found an associate job, and she's miserable. She's broke. She's miserable. She finds me on YouTube, kind of like so many people. She found me on the internet, reached out, and said, I need help. She didn't have any money. She used a credit card that she couldn't pay off to start coaching with me. She's now with Michael Mason, seeing over 200 visits a week, sending money home to her family, saving money for a new home. She's one of my greatest treasures. She's such a beautiful person, but she wanted more, Alan, and that's who needs to reach out to me. If you're just going through the motions and you're like, you know what, I'm fine, this is all I need. Good for you. I God bless you. I hope the best for you. I'm probably not the right person for you, but if you truly want more out of your life and out of your practice and out of chiropractic, if you want to learn more about what it really means, then I'm the guy to reach out to. I will help you. Then we can do something special.
What are you hoping for when you get I'm going to call them students, because that's what they are to you. You know,
yeah.
they're students. To you, they're students. They might have chiropractic master's degree, but they are students because they're coming to you for help. They're coming to you for mastership. So what sort of things, where would you sort of start off? What's the right mentality for your students to have when they're coming to you?
Well, it kind of goes with what I just said. And you're right, I have students that are still in university, all the way up to 40 years in practice that reach out to me. And what they've got to have is they've got to have the want. And you can't teach want. You either have it or you do not. And if you have the want, but then what we start with is we start with you. Because your practice comes from you. Your success comes from you. Everything in your life, your relationships, your physical body, your health, your finances, everything from the time you really start as an adult comes from who you are. So the first thing we do is start with who you are. We're going to work on that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to reveal some things about you that you are either not acknowledging or covered up or forgot about. And once we get that, we get you strong, then we step into the next levels. But the most important thing that that I can help any chiropractor with is reveal to them what we've been talking about, reveal to them what chiropractic actually is. Because when you step into a chiropractic office and you call yourself a chiropractor and you have chiropractic on your sign and you tell somebody I'm a chiropractor, but you're not practicing chiropractic, you're living in contradiction. You're practicing in contradiction. And as long as you're in contradiction, the greater the contradiction, the greater the destruction. There's some of them that some chiropractors that they think they kind of know, they know a little bit, so they have a little bit of practice. But I will tell you, when you look at the ones that I've studied, my mentors that have the largest practices in the world, and we're talking, when I say 600 a day, 600, think about 600 patient visits in one day. That's Joey Borio. That's Rob Schiffman, 800 a day. 1,000 a day, 3,000, 4,000 a week. And when you start talking about those guys, and you look at the history, what was separated them from everybody else was they were not practicing in contradiction. They 100% understood and had faith in knowing what chiropractic actually is, and that's what I will bring to any of my students is, okay, you got to get right with who you are, and then when you're right with who you are, now you're able to receive. And now and when you receive the true message, the true power of what it is we're working with, then all things are possible. The potential is through the roof. But as long as you're practicing in contradiction, that you're practicing and calling yourself a chiropractor, but you're practicing physiotherapy, or you're practicing nutrition, or you're practicing, functional medicine, or whatever it may be, that's like showing up. That's like showing up to a football game with a baseball bat. It's not going to go well for you. Right. And so that's really, in a nutshell, very simply, that is the direction that I will go. And this is what happens. The doctor in Sweden that I was just talking about tripled his practice in 30 days. He said, why hasn't anyone else told me this? I don't have an answer for that. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that because the people that are teaching, many of you are listening to this, went to university. Like you said, Alun, you go to university, you think you know everything, right? You think I have it. Well, you got to take in consideration who taught you. What do they know, right? I got very fortunate. I had Dr. Gibson. I mean, and then they let him go later on because he was too chiropractic, right? So back in the day, the chiropractors who were very successful went to chiropractic schools and taught. They don't allow that anymore. And so the people that are teaching have never had a successful chiropractic practice ever. There's maybe one or two here and there, but for the most part they haven't. Most of the time the universities are taught by non-chiropractors, right? They're not even a chiropractor in the first place. And so how are we supposed to understand what it is? And that's what keeps me traveling worldwide, is because if I don't, I know this sounds very cliche to many of you, maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't, but the last written words of B.J. Palmer, the very last thing he said that he ever wrote, I give to you a sacred trust. Guard it well. I've read that 1,000 times, and I'm looking at it right here where I'm sitting. That's a picture of D.D. Palmer delivering the very first chiropractic adjustment out behind me. That painting I had it commissioned. It's one of my prized possessions. There's so much to that. But if you see the brick in the case underneath of it, that is a brick from the building that the very first chiropractic adjustment was ever delivered in. From that building. Dr. Gibson gave that to me. And you see where it sits, right under that. But I'm looking at a picture of BJ right now. That picture is a hand-drawn picture that Dr. Gibson gave me from a patient. And he's looking right at me. I give to you a sacred trust, guard it well. And that is here. And when I'm doing a podcast or an interview, I'm teaching an adjusting class like I'm getting ready to go do. Tonight, I've got 20 students from chiropractic schools coming to my house. We're going to feed them. We're going right out in my backyard. I got a fire pit, and we're talking Green Book. And then tomorrow, I'm going to spend all day long with them, teaching them technique. And then I run straight from that class straight to the airport and fly to New Zealand. And I'm going to the New Zealand chiropractic school. So I will guard it well, Alan. So anyone looking for help with their life, with their personal development, with their practice, with anything, but I only want the ones that want more. Don't come to me and go, I need 2 more new patients so I can pay my bills. You know what? Run a Facebook ad. That's not what I'm about. Respectfully.
Yeah. So you're looking for chiropractors to come to you who are going to be open, Because I imagine
Yes.
you've got some people that will come in, they'll be a bit curious around the edges, they want to see some more people, they think they're quite busy already, but they're not open, and you must see that quite a lot.
All the time. All the time. I have doctors call me that they've been in practice for 15 years, they see 50 a week, and they tell me, listen, I understand chiropractic, I got this, I know what I'm doing, I just don't know why I'm only seeing 50 a week. I mean, and all I can say is, did you hear what you just said? I know what I'm doing, but I'm only seeing 50 a week. Well, I know right then that we're not going to be able to help this person. I mean, because if you think you know what you're doing and only seeing 50 a week, I'm like, then you're confused, right? You've got something wrong, and that's a lot. Yeah, you have to be open and receptive to something different than you know. Because here's the thing: what you know got you where you are. It's not going to get you where you want to be. And I have to do the same thing. Listen, Alan, I did that through, and I'm still doing it with coaching. I learn and I listen and I try to apply and I try to change different techniques. The landscape of chiropractic has changed dramatically. If you're in your first 5 or 10 years of chiropractic, that's one thing. But if you're in your 30th and 40th year, now we have a complete different dynamic. We've got to start thinking about exit strategies and not wearing out, and what can we do to supplement our income as we get older and get ready to retire. So there's a whole nother dynamic that I'm having to learn and adapt to. But as a chiropractor, if you're in a practice right now and you're thinking, gosh, I want more, I hear you, Doc, I want more, well, then you're going to have to be open-minded and receptive to thinking, okay, what I think and the way I believe right now may not be what is going to get me to where I want to be. So I need to open and be receptive to thinking and learning something new. You're right. That's the first thing you've got to do is actually, it's like what they say, you have to admit that you need help, right?
Absolutely. Can I just ask you, Tim, because I know you're a very busy man, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but for people that are interested in coming and joining you with Focus, but they think, I want a little bit more information, one of the best ways is, I know that you've been also, as well as everything else, you also have been writing books of chiropractic, and you have a new book.
Yeah, millionaire chiropractor. Yeah, gosh, 1,000 orders in the first week, and I don't know how many countries. And I receive reviews all the time that just the book alone, practices are growing, and I'm proud. I'm proud of it. I had a doctor call me yesterday. Said him and his wife are reading it for the second time, and they're going through it and highlighting, and then they're talking about it. So I'm proud of that. You can also reach me on Facebook. Is probably one of the easiest ways. If you just go to my personal Facebook page and send me a message on Messenger, that's, I've got like 5 of them right now from all over the world. My email address is the letter M as in Mary, V as in Victor, N as in Nancy, B as in boy, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy, Z as in zebra, at yahoo.com. It's moving bones. And then my website to get more information is focusfoundations.com. And then the book, you can get the book on millionairechiropractor.com. It's really, and just send me a message. But Alan, and I've got stuff on YouTube. It's really easy. It's really easy to get in touch with me. I have doctors get in touch with me all over the world. But make sure, and I want about 2 minutes before we end to share something. So you just let me know when that is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I certainly will. Please, Tim, let's hear it.
So I want everybody to understand this is what I've been talking this whole time about chiropractic being revealed to me, right? And here recently I had a series of events happen in my practice that really changed. I don't want to say change. I think it created an awareness more in me than ever before of the importance of what we do. And one day I had 165 people come in, and I heard over and over and over with intensity in their eyes, tears in their eyes, on this day, for a particular day. He said, Dr. Young, you need to understand, I have to say to you, you are more than just a chiropractor to us. You are more. You've been more. You're so much more to us, more to our family. And they said, you're not just a chiropractor. And over and over and over. And I spent a lot of time with that. And I can still see the eyes. And there's a couple patients in particular that I'll never forget the look that they gave me, and the tears in their eyes, and the intensity and the passion that was coming out of when they were saying it. And they weren't saying it in disrespect to chiropractic. They were saying there's more. And Alun, what I want everybody listening to this, and this is what I will be talking about this probably for the rest of my life. What is the more? You have to understand, I didn't go on vacation with these people. I didn't go to lunch with them. I didn't go to dinner with them. I didn't spend personal time with them, ever. They were in and out of my office a lot of times in 30, 45 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute and a half. And some of them that I'm thinking about, they drove 2.5, 3 hours one way. And they're in my office in a couple minutes. What's the more? What's the more? And I've had a real tough time articulating it and putting it into words. But what I've come to understand is the understanding, the faith in chiropractic. Like when you delivered an adjustment, you have to have faith that there is an inborn, innate intelligence within the human body that is in control, that knows more than you do, that has been on the job since the beginning of time. You have to have faith in that. You have to have faith that you have worked very hard your entire career. Every single adjustment you deliver has got to be better than the one before. It has to be specific and it has to be intentional. And when you have that much faith, there is a frequency, an energy that comes from you. And when you're in the presence of your patients, when they are in your presence, they feel your faith. And when it's strong enough, that faith is like a transmitter. It goes out. It goes out. And suffering people receive that transmission. They feel it. They know. And the phone starts to ring. And patients say, hey, doc, I'm referring somebody to you. And people just show up in your office out of nowhere. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 new people in a month just come through your door. And then 30 years later, they're looking at you with tears in their eyes and saying, doc, you're so much more than a chiropractor. The more is what I was talking about, is who you are on the inside. The faith that you practice in, the understanding that we do not pop backs. What we do is we remove the interference that's limiting life to express. And we were called, this is the big thing, Alun, we were called as a chiropractor to have compassion, love beyond the normal person. Because most people could care less. They don't want somebody to suffer. They don't want somebody to have bad health. They don't wish it on them. But if they do, it doesn't affect their day. They don't give it a second thought. Oh, that stinks. I'm sorry about your bad luck. And then they go on down the road. As a chiropractor, no. I have to help. I have to serve you. I have to go to the hospital and put hands on a baby without question, without hesitation. Right? It's here, Alun. And when we're called to do that, and where you find that faith is in the Word. You have to spend time with who we are, the history and the philosophy behind what it is we do. And when you spend time with it, it grows in you and it gets stronger. And the stronger it is, and the more it grows, the more passion, the more faith, that frequency, that energy comes out. And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. Your heart and your hands do all the speaking for you, and your practices are so busy that you have to stay focused just to keep up with everybody. And instead of spending all your time and energy on social media marketing and trying to do gimmicky things to get people through the door and spending an hour with them talking, trying to educate them and talk them into it, if you become a chiropractor and you do not live in contradiction, you become more. And that more is what creates the practice. And that is something that's why I wanted to do this morning. I need to speak the more into all of you. That's what I wanted to finish this with.
Thank you. That absolutely, that's amazing. Dr. Tim Young, thank you so much for coming on here and telling us about your books that you've written and where you're going, all the love and the help and the support that you give to so many of the chiropractors that are needing your help, including myself. I appreciate you so much, Tim. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And I want to say, well, I forgot to say this. And we have doctors coming over from Sweden and the Netherlands and all over the world are coming over. The last weekend in July, Focus OKC is our huge seminar. We have 2 days. Some of the doctors that I was talking about, Mitch Malley was a mentor of mine, the largest and the number one adjuster, extremity adjuster in the world will be speaking. We have Dr. Rob Shippen, the largest practice in the world, is speaking. My daughter is speaking. Devin Verana, who's getting ready to come over and do a pediatric class just in a few weeks in London, is speaking. So anyone that you want to hear more of this, focusokc.com. Go on. You can fly over. I come to London all the time. It's not that far. You're right. Okay. And so if you want more of the word, if you want to surround yourself with hundreds of amazing chiropractors, come to Focus and get that in your heart also. I almost forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, which county is that in USA?
It's in Oklahoma. It's in Oklahoma City. Yeah, so you can fly right in. You probably, almost everybody from London, you'll fly into probably Dallas. That's one big. You fly to Dallas, and then Dallas, it's another hour up here. But Tom Waller will be. He speaks. Brian Reeder will be speaking. Tom Waller's speaking next year. Brian Reeder is coming over and speaking. Benny Matthew has spoke. I mean, we have people coming from all over. We have doctors from Australia that has speak. So it's a really fun thing. But what I do is I know all the big chiropractors. I know the chiropractors that practice the way I'm talking about today, the ones that live that life. They're the ones that we get on stage. And when you spend 2 full days hearing the message, you just leave a different person. So I highly encourage anybody that wants to come to Oklahoma. It's a beautiful place. Get out of Drury, England, and the UK. It's always rainy and cold over there. Come spend time with us.
Absolutely. What month? What's the exact date of that, please?
It is the last weekend of July. So it is July. Hang on, I'm sorry. It is July 24th and 25th. And I'll be teaching a technique class on the 23rd. And if you go to focusfoundations.com and go to Focus OKC, all the information's on there. But I'm teaching technique on the 23rd, but then the July 24th and 25th is the seminar. And it's, again, we have doctors that come in from all over the world every year. It's just, and they bring their families. They bring their families, and their kids are growing up in it. And now we've got people, from other countries, and they've made friends with people over here, and their kids are growing up together. It's really a special event.
Again, Tim, thank you from my heart. Thank you on behalf of all of us here. I hope you'll come back and do another podcast with us in perhaps 6 months' time.
Anytime. Alun, you reach out to me, I will always come running. I appreciate you, and thank you for this opportunity. This is a huge opportunity for me to reach chiropractors that I might not have previously reached before. And so that's what this is all about. Is if I can help one, that's like in your practices. Remember, you focus on the one and take care of the one will take care of you. And so I just want to take care of anybody out there that could possibly need help, that I'm here. So thank you, Alun, for this opportunity.
Yeah, the philosophies are fantastic. So on behalf of Chiropractic Revolution and Being Human, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Thanks, Alun. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Brilliant. We'll cut it there, Tim. That was awesome. I hope you don't mind me asking you to do the story of the baby, because that's absolutely. I just think as many people could hear that as possible, because that's what this is all about.
Well, you know what?
That is the reason why. Because
Alun, here's the thing. This is what I talk to people about all the time. It was the chiropractic story. The chiropractic story. There's it was the stories that got us here. You think about this. That first adjustment, there was no one there. There was no research. There was no cameras. Right? It's a story. Right? And so you think about all the stories throughout history of chiropractic. That's what got us here. It's not anecdotal. It's history. And so those stories was what keeps it alive. I mean, think about the Bible. The Bible wasn't written for 40 years. It was passed down as a story from year to year to year to year, right? We have got to keep the stories alive. And here's the thing about the story is, to me, it's not a story. It's a memory. It's a reality. I experienced it. I lived it. I saw it. I witnessed it. You can't take it away from me. And so it becomes who you are. But then, and I've got thousands of them, but and I have stories that when I listen to Sigafus and DeMartini, I can think of a story that DeMartini used to tell all the time of the boy that they brought in, that he was diagnosed with all these diseases, and he couldn't speak, and he couldn't use his arms, and he couldn't walk, and they would pick him up and lay him on the table, and he was all, he was in a wheelchair, and he gave him that first adjustment, and his hands opened up. I mean, I remember those stories when I was 28 years old. Right, and it's important that we share those, and that way young chiropractors and chiropractors, especially in other parts of the world, that will never hear this, they will never know, because they're told that you manipulate the mid back, and then when they feel better, then release them, or if they don't feel better, send them to the MD, and they think that's what chiropractic is, and it's just not, and so I look at there's a saying, if not you, who? So the fact that you're doing this podcast and spreading these stories is powerful. What you're doing is important, Alun.
I enjoy doing it. I really do. Because of your story, my second grandchild was born. The first child was born breech, first grandchild, and because of chiropractic and being around you guys is the reason I passed on so much to my daughter. She became a midwife, and the minute that they found out the baby was going to be breech, they said book her in for a cesarean section, and she said, absolutely not. I'm going to give birth to this baby normally. And she gave birth to it the best way she could, on all fours. And
Yeah.
she had two of her midwife friends with her, and they did it without the surgeon, without waiting outside, because he'd got two students with him. He wanted to show them a C-section. So he was hoping that there was going to be a problem, and he was fuming that there wasn't. But that he was born. The second grandchild was born 3 weeks ago, and I went to see him. I couldn't see him on the day, but she came on the second day, and he'd got some colic, and he was breathing, bubbling a little bit as he was breathing in and out, like he'd got some type of infection, but it wasn't infection. He was, and I just said, "Oh, let me just check him over, like I'd want to, like anyone would want to."
Yeah.
And around about T5, I feel sure it was around at T5. You could feel it, just like you were talking about earlier. You could feel it, and that was just, I did a little tiny but sharp adjustment, and he didn't like it. I passed him straight to his mum, and straight away, as soon as he was back in his mum's arms, he coughed up this big ball of phlegm, which, that's all I can tell you what actually happened, a big ball of phlegm, and I started breathing again, properly. And that was it, and you should have seen her face. My daughter's face was like, there it is.
So here's the lesson there, and I love that. But here's the beauty of that. So let's just break it down to a simplistic form. His inborn innate intelligence was trying to correct and get rid of this out of his lungs, but because of the T4 T5 subluxation, the diaphragm was being affected. That's why he was having a hard time breathing. The diaphragm, and he's not able. The innate wasn't able to express. You'd remove the interference, and the body said thank you, and bam, it did its job. That's chiropractic, Alun. That in a nutshell is chiropractic, and nobody wants to acknowledge the enormity of that, the beauty, the power. I mean, that's everything. And so what I want you to remember when you're going into your practice, every time you lay hands on somebody, it's the same power, whether you see a result or not. You don't have to have an immediate reaction to witness it. You have to have faith and understanding. When you make that adjustment, what you're doing is the exact same thing for everyone. And that's how brilliant it is, where the first adjustment or the 150th or the 500th adjustment is just as powerful. And when you walk into your office and lay hands on with that intention, man, that's what they feel. That's the more I'm talking about. Yeah, it's beautiful.
If it's okay with you, Tim, I'm not going to cut this out. I'm just going to carry it on. It's more important that the information is out there.
You use anything you want to. Yeah, it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much, Alun.
Thank you so much. I'll speak to you very shortly, Tim.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye, buddy.
Thank you.